Welcome to Roundhill Radio. Through our conversations, we discover the holy and the ordinary, find moments of grace and peace, and redefine what we're talking about. We talk about faith. Good morning, Shannon.
Well, good morning, Leslie.
How are you?
I'm well. We've had a hiatus.
We've had a really long hiatus. Welcome back to Roundhill Radio.
Thank you.
This is very exciting. So this is our second episode of our new season.
That's right.
It's technically season 7, but it's only our 5th year, so I'm not sure how I did that math.
And it's the first time that I've been on here where I have been now full-time staff.
That's right.
Right?
Oh my gosh.
I know.
That's
June 1st, I
wonderful.
went on full-time.
It's so great to have you full-time.
Thank you. I love it here. I really love it
We
here.
love you here.
Thank you.
We love having you here. as
Enough
part
to
of the
come back a
fam.
second time.
I know. Well, which is saying something,
Right?
right?
I know.
That's a big thing
It's a big thing.
in the professional world.
I know.
Or in the ministry world.
You have to leave well the first time.
That is a whole.
That's a whole episode.
It's exactly what I was about to say. That is a whole episode unto itself.
Let's do that.
We should.
Okay, we will.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't worry, we're not leaving. Don't
I know.
panic.
And that's not what
Nancy,
we're
don't
talking about
panic.
today.
It's all going to be okay. We promise.
I'm not leaving either.
No, yeah. No, I can't. No. This is where I go to find peace during my work week. It's very enjoyable.
Actually, the title of today is "What is the right thing to do?"
That's
It's not to leave right now.
not to leave right now. To know what's good and stick around. All right. So, yes. So we're talking about, so this is part of a bigger story.
Yeah. It's the third part of a series that I've been doing on Leo Tolstoy's short story, The Three Questions.
Right.
And John Muth, who is a children's author, actually put it into more succinct language for children.
Mhm.
So his things were, what is the right thing to do? Who's the right person? And when's the right time to do something?
Okay.
So, but Tolstoy kind of nuances it a little bit more and says, what is the right thing to do becomes what affairs are the most important and need my attention first?
Mm-hmm.
And the other questions are, how can I learn to do the right thing at the right time? So timing versus, and what I talked about then was the difference in chronological time and Kairos time, which is God appointed time.
Right.
And then who are the people I most need and to whom should I therefore pay more attention to than the next?
Yeah.
All right, so the story is, for those of you who haven't heard it, I'll set it up. There's a king that wants to know the answers to these 3 questions. And so the intention behind it and the motivation is to avoid failure, which we know is impossible, right?
Yeah. Although tempting to try.
Tempting in our society today among very capable people.
Of course.
So he seeks out leaders in the kingdom and they all disappoint him. And then he decides to go to a hermit in the woods who's known as a very wise man.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes out and to ask the questions. And he finds the hermit digging in the ground. Okay, so the hermit's just digging. And the king takes over for him. He decides to help him. So he helps him. And while he's digging, a man comes running out of the forest, bleeding profusely. So the king, who's in disguise, the hermit doesn't know who he is, and neither does this man. The king helps this man and helps his bleeding, actually takes care of him overnight, pulls him into the hermit's house. And the next morning when the man wakes up, he goes, I was actually coming to kill you.
Oh, wow.
Because you killed my brother and took all of our possessions and, in his role as king.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was very much of a surprise. And so the man's, having received the compassionate care, though, the man asks the king for forgiveness. And actually then all of the things are restored. And so there's kind of some peace made. So the king is still frustrated that the hermit has not directly answered this question. And this is how the hermit responds. And I'm going to read it because I want to do it justice. Do you not see, replied the hermit, if you had not pitied my weakness and had not dug those beds for me, but had gone your way, that man would have attacked you, and you would have been sorry for not having stayed with me. So the most important time was when you were digging the beds, and I was the most important man. And to do me good was your most important business. Afterwards, when that man ran to us, the most important time was when you were attending to him. For if you had not bound up his wounds, he would have died without having made peace with you. So he was the most important man, and what you did for him was your most important business. Remember then, there is only one time that is important now. It is the most important time because it is the only time when we have any power. The most necessary man is he with whom you are, for no man knows whether he will ever have dealings with anyone else. And the most important affair is to do him good, because for that purpose alone was man sent into this life. So, there. So the question, to do others good, what does that mean in our world?
Yeah.
And as I've thought about that and I've gone different ways, I'm working on this sermon and kind of still rumbling through, and the Sunday morning sermon will know where I landed. But it's always a matter of discernment, right? And asking the Holy Spirit for guidance. But I think it's all about context. What do you think? Doing, what is the right thing to do?
What is the right thing to do? Yeah, I feel like all the elements of this story speak to me in a way about distraction, about being present. That's clearly the message I need to hear from it. But that idea of who's the most important in the moment is where you are, and not the 100 other things that want your attention, positive, negative, whatever. That's kind of all those elements combined of that in that moment where you are, that is the most important thing. So our conversation we're having now is the most important thing. And the things that happened before and the things that are going to happen later in our days are less important than what's happening right now.
But I bet your perspective shifted some in having become a new mom.
Yeah.
Right?
That's really
because
hard.
That baby, your sweet little one, has got to be the most important.
She's got to be the most important one. And it's still so easy to be distracted. And it's still so tempting to pick up your phone and check your email at 3:00 in the morning, versus just soaking it in. Right. And more seasoned mothers like to be like, well, appreciate it now. It goes by fast, which is really irritating to hear, but I don't know if they're really right, because it does go by really fast. But even if it didn't, it's still so important just to stop and breathe and look and listen and be present.
Yeah, my husband and I have had this conversation about his use of the phone, because before we got married, he was constantly checking, and he's a therapist, and so there are patients that call or contact him, and he's the executive director. So but I said, you know what? When you and I are together, this has got to be it. I need you to be present and do and be here.
Yeah.
Because it's important.
Yeah.
Even though we may not be saying anything significant,
right?
There is time to do, and that goes back to the, when is the right time to do things.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing. There's sort of jokes about how millennial couples spend time together, which is sitting on the couch, each on their phones.
Yes. Or at a restaurant, you see it.
Yeah. And I do think there is a time and place for that if you're intentional about it. And being like, hey, because my husband and I will check in with each other and be like, is it cool that I'm on my phone?
Yeah.
Is it cool with you? Are we having phone time? Or are we having together time?
Right.
Are we having mutual doing other things, but we're next to each other? Or are we actually connect? Because I think there's time for us, at least in our relationship, there's time and place for both.
Yeah.
Because if we're watching a football game, we kind of don't care about, and we want to just zone out. And it's full zone out. I'm playing a dumb game on my phone.
Yes.
But I like being geographically next to
I may be doing a crossword puzzle while the team is playing.
Exactly. Yes. So there's time for that, but there's also, like you said, out to dinner. It's other specific moments where it's just and I, for me at least, I am so bad at this that I have to give myself, air quotes, something to do in being present. Because just saying to myself, oh, I need to be present isn't enough.
Right.
I'm like, what does that even mean?
Right.
So for me, I've found it's helpful to be like, well, what can I notice? What can I observe? What can I listen for? And get curious about sort of where I am. Otherwise, I'm like, okay, well, I'm not on my phone anymore, but what am I supposed to do?
Right. So I think the scriptures and the life of Jesus give us a great clue for
Nice
that.
bring you back.
I know.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Well, when you look at Jesus and all of the people that he interacted with,
Mm-hmm.
when somebody clamored for his time and attention
Yeah.
and wanted something from him about doing good for someone or doing the right thing for someone, he literally blocked out everything else and focused on that person.
Yeah.
And it was, what did that person need and what was the priority?
Yeah.
So whether it was healing someone or that they needed to be told their faith was more important than whatever was happening, he cued in to whatever that person needed.
Yeah.
So there was a quote I came across of the Dalai Lama, do good, what was it? Be good to people for no good reason. For no reason.
Yeah.
Just always be good to people.
Yeah.
So, that makes me curious in some ways, because sometimes in the whole world of codependency, sometimes what's important to look at in that is, what is your motivation?
Sure.
Because I don't know if you can relate to this, but sometimes, particularly earlier on, excuse me, I could be good to somebody because I wanted to feel better
Sure.
about myself.
Sure.
Right?
Right.
So if there's some intention over controlling someone or getting them to do what you want them to do, then that's not really what we're talking about here, right? It doesn't help them.
Sure.
Actually, there's a book called When Helping You is Hurting Me. And it's when you don't care for yourself enough that you're giving out of a whole self.
Right.
I think there is a good portion of our society that is self-forgetting, and particularly after the pandemic, we're traumatized or whatever, and so we can be giving from a hollow place. And giving, I don't mean like financial giving, but I mean like we can enable people.
Right. Yeah. And I think sometimes, I really appreciate that society has been focusing on self-care, but I think that sometimes the definition of that maybe is a little misplaced.
Say more.
I think sometimes, and I think we're pivoting to a better place with it, but people think self-care is like, oh, go take a bubble bath or this, and instead of like, oh, go have a walk with a beloved friend and have a deep heart conversation, or have a fabulous therapy session, or something that really feeds you versus sort of treats the symptoms and not the disease, I guess.
Yeah, it's about connection.
But
again,
connection,
right?
really filling your cup. And I think, I think a lot of us try to care for ourselves in ways that maybe aren't effective. So then when we go to try and we're like, but I'm doing all the things I'm supposed to, care for myself with, and it's maybe not working. I think finding those things that do fill us is that's a big thing.
It's a big thing. And for some people, it means that they have to go away and be quiet in silence for a time. Other people, just kind of reeling it back a little bit and not doing so much activity.
Sure. Or for some, it's fine. It's spending time with friends and people. I remember the first summer of COVID. Oh, Shannon. I was not a happy camper.
Because you're an extrovert.
I am. Turns out definitively I am. I like my quiet time as much as the next girl. But oh boy, was I miserable.
Right.
Oh boy, was I miserable.
Right.
Because I just couldn't see and talk to people and just have moments of connection or just chit chat or whatever. And I was just like, so unhappy. And I found that out about myself.
So how did that affect what you did for other people? Did you feel like you were coming out of like a more desperate kind of thing to need?
Yeah, I reached out, and then I found also like in my interactions with people, I think I'm still recovering from this because we spent so long like on Zoom.
Yeah.
And so long not looking people in the eyes. I'm actually really struggle. I'm looking you in the eyes right now. It's making me deeply uncomfortable because I like forgot how to do it.
Right.
And I didn't know, and not connecting with people for so long has made it really a challenge to then come back. And, I feel like on Zoom, we could have conversations but I'd be like off, like kind of doing something else and doing 400 things while I was in a meeting. Sorry, Ed. But, mostly for ATO stuff. But like this, we could all be kind of multitasking and not really connecting with one another. And so I think for then, like being able to come back, being in place, and then like stop and breathe and talk to somebody feels like a giving act at this point.
Yeah.
Just like giving people time and real time, real connection, real energy and focus.
And that's really the loose definition of spirituality, is connection with God, self, and others, which is what I do on the...
That's your Thursday Instagram Live, right?
But connecting really feeds us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the pandemic really did disrupt that in so many ways, because there's nothing that can substitute for the real one-on-one in person, even though we have a plastic thing here.
We do still.
But connecting and really getting to the heart of the matter.
Right.
Which does good for someone else.
Yeah.
And for us.
For
right?
sure.
It's kind of a both and.
Yeah. It's a funny thing sometimes, and I think your earlier comment about like giving from being empty or giving from a fun and less in tune motivation, but also giving can be mutually positive, right?
Well, and Jesus said, love others as you love yourself, right? So it's a both and. It's not forgetting yourself, but loving yourself enough that you can love someone else out of an overflow.
Right. Do you think there's an element of that, to kind of call back to what we were saying a minute ago? Is there an element of that finding what you need to be loved helps you love others, do you think?
I absolutely do. I absolutely do. For whatever reason, I'm going back and looking at some very early times with my dad, and my dad was not really able to express love. And I've been literally going back and trying to image him. He died very early at 57, so over 30 years ago. But trying to feel that, because I do believe he's in a whole place now, and he's able to love me from a whole heart. So feeling that and taking that in is actually enables me to take in the love from other people around. So it deepens whatever wound there was there is healed with the people around me then.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So yeah, I do believe that stuff stays in our bodies.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. And then there's also something in there about accepting love and receiving love and care.
I think a lot of people in very high functioning societies have a hard time receiving. It's so much easier for us to give. Right. But to receive that's what I was just talking about with that. To receive that in, I'm much more comfortable going out and doing.
Right. Yeah. There's a huge vulnerability with that, right? A huge humility.
That you need,
right?
Yeah. We don't have it all together.
What? How dare you?
You might.
No. Oh boy. Oh, no. So
that's really what we're talking about.
It's
the now, the connection, and doing good for people out of a whole heart, right?
Yeah.
I think we answered Tolstoy's questions.
I think so. We solved it, people. We solved it, friends. Well, I want to shout out to your Instagram Live, because you do it every Thursday morning.
Yeah, and then it stays on there. So you can go on. People watch it throughout the week.
Yeah, so it's on our Round Hill Community Church Instagram handle. And also make sure you are also following our Round Hill Radio Instagram account. We're having some really fun conversations over there. Last week we were talking about the have you seen those This is Us Jesus Gets Us commercials?
Oh, yes.
That's what we were talking last week on
Who's
the Instagram.
that?
That's what we've been talking about. So come join us.
Okay.
So we're having all sorts of media and faith conversations over there. So come join us, and we'll discuss all these things and more.
I love it. Thank you so much for all the creativity and the different angles that you're coming at and are very important, because church is hybrid.
It is,
right?
Isn't it?
Yes.
Right? Church is everywhere.
People watch us that aren't able to come here, and people come here who don't necessarily watch us. So it's important to have everybody and then connect us all.
Absolutely.
So you're doing that. So
thank you. Well, no, and I think the conversations you're bringing are so important, because I think it's so important to fill the faith space with perspectives that are non-judgmental
There we
and
go.
opening
Imagine that.
and wonderful and all the things.
Doing the right thing.
Doing the things. We're getting louder about being accepting.
Yes.
We're not putting up with this stuff anymore.
All people.
All people. All are welcome here.
Yay.
Thank you, one and all. Round Hill Radio is brought to you by the friends and members of Round Hill Community Church. For more information, please visit roundhillcommunitychurch.org.